By breaking the 300-mile-an-hour barrier, Bugatti further cemented itself as the king of speed, bar that weird SSC Tuatara thing that happened recently. We thought that the Bugatti Chiron Supersport was the ultimate car the company could conjure. But what happens when you take that car, strip it down completely to just its 8-litre quad-turbo W16 engine, and then start completely from scratch, designing a car closer to an LMP1 car than a road-going hypercar? Well, you end up with the Bugatti Bolide. This thing was unveiled late last year, and we somehow feel that it went under the radar a bit. Where to start with this car then? Well, I guess the main difference to the Chiron is its weight. When the Veyron came along, it was just under 2 tons, the Chiron was slightly heavier, the Bolide comes in at 1,240 kilograms. That's 700 kilos less than Bugatti's road cars. That has been achieved by a complete ground-up design purely focused on track times with no needs for any creature comforts. The entire body is carbon fibre, and much of the componentry is made up of 3D printed titanium, which makes everything impossibly strong but also race car light. And to be honest, the body and parts need to be that light because Bugatti has kept that legendary W16 in the car, which comes in at a whopping 400 kilograms. Imagine if they say went for a V8. It could be half that weight and the car would be round about a ton, maybe even less. But they haven't rested on their laurels with this engine, as it's apparently in its highest state of tune ever, 1,850 PS, which is 1,824 brake horsepower. That is 363 brake horsepower more than a standard Chiron and 264 brake horsepower more than the record-breaking Chiron Supersport. And actually that power is supposed to come in much higher in the rev range, which is much better for a track car. Bolt that engine into that body and you end up with roughly 1.5 horsepower per kilogram or 1,471 brake horsepower per tonne. And that leads to these figures. Now, there's not much point looking at the 0 to 60, it's not what this car is about, but that second one, 0 to 500 kilometers an hour, 311 miles per hour in 20.16 seconds. It's mental that press releases for hypercars now have 500 kilometers an hour in virtually all of them. The level that car engineering has got to is crazy. But just talking about top speed with this car would be doing it a disservice, as this thing has been inspired by some of the quickest close-wheel race cars ever, making it, currently only in simulation form, one of the fastest track weapons ever. The ground-up, unshackled design means that the Bugatti engineers have left behind the rotund, bulky shape of the Chiron, instead going for this aerodynamically optimised, hunkered down insect of a thing. I could talk about the aerodynamics of this car for hours, so let's focus on the main aspects. Starting at the front, we have a splitter, but also a proper front wing, which acts just like a rear wing, adjustable for either high downforce or a low drag setting. Moving on, there's chunks out the front bodywork, which allows for aerodynamic flow to go through the front suspension, just like on an LMP1 car, and then onwards to either one of many radiators for cooling, one of many tunnels to create downforce, or onwards to the rear aero. Now, one of the pioneering bits of tech on this car is actually on the roof scoop. As you can see, it's covered in these small dimples, and these are actually vortex generators like you used to find on old Mitsubishi Evos. The way these work is when you want low drag to hit a high top speed, those dimples stay flat. The air flowing over that smooth surface then becomes detached from the body of the car, reducing drag so you can hit that high top speed. In its high downforce setting, those dimples inflate. The air flowing over the roof scoop then interacts with those dimples, becoming excited, and it then stays attached to the body of the car, following the lines of the car and interacting with that rear aero to create more downforce. And let's take a look at that rear aero. We've got a shark fin for more high-speed stability and a bit more lateral grip in the corners, and also a full-width rear wing with a nice big diffuser below it. All of this amounts to a simulated 2.6 tons of downforce, and when you couple that with a full set of Michelin Racing Slick tyres, This thing can achieve cornering forces of up to 2.8 G, which puts it slap bang in the middle of LMP1 car cornering capabilities. And that's why, when you plug all of these numbers into a computer, the lap times the Bolide can achieve flirt with all of the records. It'll tackle the Nürburgring Nordschleife in 5 minutes 23.1 seconds. That's just 3 and a bit seconds off a favourite of mine, the Porsche 919 Evo. And then there's its Le Mans lap time, 3 minutes 7.1 seconds. That takes 7 whole seconds off the official lap record currently held by Toyota. I guess that sort of lap time is achievable at a high-speed circuit like Le Mans when you're reaching speeds towards 300 miles an hour when most LMP1 cars don't go much over 200. Although, despite how bonkers this thing looks, I struggle to believe that it is as quick as a Porsche 919 Evo. Now, Bugatti has made one of these cars, but I think we need to see it properly cornering in anger to believe some of those lap times, especially that Nürburgring one. They say that the Bolide is just a concept to be used for technical progression of future Bugattis, but there is one factor with this car that gets my juices flowing more than any other PR chit-chat. The Bolide has been made to be FIA compliant, so could Bugatti be returning to racing in the near future? To make it feasible as a race car, you would sadly need to get rid of that 8-litre quad-turbo W16 engine, because it's about 1,000 brake horsepower too powerful for any current race series. That may defeat the whole appeal of the car, but wouldn't it be cool to see Bugatti competing against Toyota, Porsche, Audi and Glickenhaus at Le Mans? So I'd like to end with a question for you guys. If you could pick any engine feasible for racing and put it into the Bolide, what would you go for? Should Bugatti raid VW's parts bin for the Porsche V4 turbo engine, or maybe they should go more road biased and take the V8 twin turbo from the Lamborghini Urus and change it into a racing engine? Tell me in the comments below. I've been Mike, and don't forget to subscribe to Drive Pride.